Enrico, please feel free to like start the talk. I will give you the host rights as well, so you're able to screen share and stuff like that.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for having me. First of all, and I at first also wanted to do or thought about saying doing things about player development. And I saw you had Yurik on here. I said I'll leave it up to him. He's good. Actually, a few years ago, I was at an event as well, together with Paul Gude, just taking things in. And so yeah, so I just decided to do mine more so on my presentation here, or my little talk on leadership, which is a very I mean, I guess it's a buzzword in a way, and very all-encompassing in terms of what goes into it, what goes into leadership. So for me, I just decided that I wanted to talk about what I've learned works best for me, so that I also don't sit up here and act like I know everything better than anybody else. And probably I'm going to say things that you've heard before, but I just basically wanted to share some of the things that I do over here in Würzburg. I'm a coach for S. Oliver Würzburg for the under 19, and also the second men's team or development team, however you want to call it. Um, so yeah, and most of it really, in my opinion, does have to do with player development, especially in these age ranges. So first off, before I start talking about any of this stuff, um, just let you know a little something about me, where I have been, what I have been doing. I started off obviously playing over here in Germany, then headed to the US and was a walk on at NC State. And upon leaving NC State, I came back over here, played kind of for a year, and then ended up as a coach with ABBA Berlin. Um, After ABBA, I went to the Eisbären Bremerhaven for a year. Was a head coach of the under 19 as well, just as head coach, but it was the under 19, the MBBL. Um, Moved from there to the PSK Lions, was an assistant coach with the pro team, and as well did the under 18 as a head coach. And now, ever since last season, I've been here at Osiliva Würzburg, and you can see I've been wearing a lot of hats these past 2 years. With Corona, I've also moved into an assistant coaching job with the BBL squad. Um, and in terms of this Vita, the most interesting thing, or to me the most interesting thing, is that the most successful has been with ABBA Berlin and with the PSK Lions. But the most that I've been able to learn was with the during the times that I struggled the most, especially in terms of leadership, and that was the year 2016-17, and also last season, where I felt like I did a lot of stuff right, but it was still a very tough year, to where I felt like I've learned a lot more about myself, a lot more about how to handle a lot of these scenarios or things. So, but let me just go ahead and start and talk about my approach, and how I go about these things in terms of a team or players in general. So let me see what just happened here. Okay. What we do in terms of, and I mean this, the approach in terms of our leadership to um, is player development. Since we're mainly working with young guys, I think this is also something that can work for pros as well. But we want to make sure that we define reality and create a vision for these guys. So we want to analyze ourselves first, and have actually players fill out SWOT analysis. Um, if you're in business, or maybe, or you probably heard of it, but I will still say that is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And basically, the players have to themselves just write down what they think their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what we do talk about goals as well, and what the basically what could get them there, and what the threats are to hinder them from achieving them. I used to do 5-year plans to kind of have them, written out and see, where they want to get. One of the players that I've did that with, his name is Nelson Vitamin. He actually plays in the BBL over here now. 4 years later, he came back and he was like, "Hey, see what I wrote? Everything went exactly the way that we wrote it down." So that was a thing where I felt like, okay, he maybe he needed it, but maybe he needed it, maybe he didn't, but he felt like he wrote it down, and everything came about the way that he thought it would, or that he hoped it would, and basically by writing it down as well. But we kind of moved away from that a little bit, um, because, or I moved away from that a little bit because I felt like the SWOT analysis gives something more tangible to the player, in the present, instead of only looking into the future to where they have to analyze themselves. And I do the SWOT analysis for them as well. And usually, what that leads to is we come to the same conclusions most of the time. Sometimes it's a little bit different, but um, for me, the main aspect of it is the player development part, and then also the people development, especially with young guys, getting them to understand things that it may take to get where they want to get, and then obviously that plays in with the player development part as well. And if this does not make any sense in terms of leadership right now, I hope that it will in a minute. But yeah, let me move on right here.
Yeah. So Enrico, if I
Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. So if you go back to the previous slide,
Mhm.
um, I think it's a great way of analyzing it via that SWOT way. So via those strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats. But how did you find it that players, especially younger players,
Mhm.
fill in those documents? Because most of the times they're better at filling in things they are not good in, instead of complementing the stuff they are already good in, or
Yeah.
good at, I have to say, sorry. And are they really analyzing it correctly? So how do you teach them to fill in such a document?
Well, at the first time we do it, um, we do not basically in that moment do not teach them anything. It's basically goes into the direction, as Yurik was talking about, how you go on the court. They just try to do it. And then later on, you kind of sit down with them and basically hold the mirror in front of them. Sometimes they are completely right, and they're really self-reflective. Like I've had guys this past year who knew exactly what their strengths were, knew exactly what their weaknesses were, and with others, sometimes, especially with weaknesses, say some players believe they have a really good jump shot, but they don't. And then at that moment, you tell them that. Sometimes there's a little, they might, take a step back, but um, but the thing that does happen is that that they realize this is something where you're trying to help them. So at the beginning, the very first time, sometimes it's very tough, but we try to kind of do this thing every year, since they do improve or do not improve or whatever over the course of a year, right? So they do get better at that as well, and I think that's a great tool for them to use to see, how they improved as well. So yeah,
Check.
I'm not sure it answered your question, but I tried.
No, I totally got it. Like,
Okay.
but I find it really hard for players. Like, I ask players as well. Like, if they want to analyze their own stuff, they're better
Mhm.
at saying what they're bad in instead of acknowledging the good points, but not the points they excel in. Like,
I
they don't
think
rate themselves a
I
two,
think that
they rate
depends
themselves a
though,
three or
because I will say too that in German culture, that is 100% true as well. But you will come across guys that are very, very confident and are, you know, are they are able to really do their strengths, but are not as good as in the weaknesses. Our guys, and it is under 19, the youngest that we've had were 15. They were actually really good at it. And I was surprised, and I want to say that if you that sometimes the guys, even with these type of things, they might surprise you at times, um, realizing what they need in order to get to the level that they want to get to.
Yep,
Um,
got you. Don't want to stop you anywhere anymore from
you're
your
good. You're good. No
presentation.
problem at all. Um, so I've talked about leadership with Joe Prunty yesterday. Before because I told him that I'll be on here. And he told me basically the leader's job is not to look at the situation or at the players as what they are, but as what they can become. And and that's basically where the leadership part comes into it, to where um, you have players and kind of try to show them where they can get to, be it through the SWOT analysis, be it through during the SWOT analysis, we also talk about where they want to get to as a player. So or be it that, and it's just so they have it um, black on white and see it, which I try to do with the 5-year plan, but we now do it with the SWOT analysis, plus obviously writing down where they want to get to. And I think this can be a this quote is interesting to me because I think it can be a slippery slopes, talking about just what, not about what they are but what they want to become, because you don't want to fall in love with a player's potential. um in German we say ewiges Talent, meaning eternal talent, never really being able to reach the talent. But then obviously mentality comes into factor, where we try to see or try to see the reality of it all and defining the reality again, to seeing where they might where they could get. Some players might become better than you actually believe, but that's why we have them writing down their goals. And if I believe it or not, I'm going to go with it, and that's what we're going to work towards. But anyways, that's the whole mentality part is a different. It's a different part, and I'll just get back to this. So yeah, so we do end up setting goals together throughout the season, setting goals for the future. Sometimes it's very 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 interesting in terms of the things that they say. They say I want to be a professional player, and that's something to me that is very very broad. So I asked them, okay, that doesn't really tell me anything. Do you want to be a Pro B player, Pro A player, or BBL player, or EuroLeague, or where do you want to go? So basically, that's the point where I um, help them define the reality, not define the reality. Sorry, create the vision, um, to where, okay, what kind of pro player do I even want to become? What level do I want to play in? So it's very concrete and not just a broad thing saying I want to become a pro player. And then we go for the to devise a plan of action, basically showing um, how we're going to achieve those goals. You know, um,
And Enrico, do you have a lot of players? Or sorry, I should not say a lot, but do you have players that like deviate from that path, as so to say that, well, we're starting out a pathway, and like I want to become that pro A player, but later on, as he progresses, he realizes Pro A might not be in it, so I'm going for Pro B. And at what moment you intervene, and like, do you intervene or do you let them come up to you and say, Coach, the goal we have set is not a real goal anymore. We have to adjust it.
Um, you meaning if they might have reached too high or
Reach
reached
too
too
high, reach too high, reach too low. Like
with
at one point, do you like
in
uh,
terms of
reassess the goals, or
yeah.
like
Well, in general, like we do this every season. If I feel like they're reaching too low, I'm definitely, and that's something that I wanted to talk about. Let me see about him right here. This kid, his name is Julius Burma. He's on the BBL team, 19 years old. And with him, he said, "Well, yeah, I would like to become a BBL player." And I told him, "What are you talking about? You're one step away from becoming a BBL player. That should not be the goal, and that can't be the goal because that's basically what you are right now. You're practicing with them regularly. You have the chance to be it in a matter of a year. It should be higher." And with him, I told him right away, um, "I think you can be a EuroLeague player." And right there, he became very like he was surprised, looked at me, very surprised. And I told him, "Yes, I think you," and I'm adamant about it, that you can become a EuroLeague player because I see how you're playing, I see how you're learning, and that kind of opened up the eyes for him and went back to the point where you create a vision for this guy that might be higher than what he envisioned for himself. With him, actually, it even goes as far that as this last 3 months where we can't work with a lot of guys, and I've been working with him before the BBL practice every single day, and I actually think that he has the potential and he has a chance to even get higher than the EuroLeague. Will it happen? I don't know. In the end, the situations have to be right. In the end, he has to end up believing in it himself. But that's something I tell him over and over again, that I do believe that. Well, over and over again is an exaggeration, but I do tell them that. At the same time, I do let him know, though, that it's the work that he's putting in that is the important part. Otherwise, he will not get there. But that's one part. And if they reach too high, if I feel like they reach too high, I do tell them that what I believe it is. But at the same time, I feel like um, you should not completely, or you should not uh, demolish your kids' dreams. So I do at the same time tell them, I might believe that, but that does not mean that you should not necessarily work for what you want to, work for. So put the work in, and if it happens how you see it, that's great, and I will continue to put the work in with you. Um, so don't let somebody else's vision of something stop you from getting to or where you think you can get to. Um, so yeah, so sometimes they do aim too high, but in my opinion, if they put the work, if they put the work in, it's not that big of a deal, because I believe in, if you put the work in for something and you don't get there, at least for yourself, you can say that you have put the work in and it didn't work out. And that's something that's a very important aspect to me, because I don't think I'm in the business of killing dreams. I'm in the business of trying to help these kids achieve their dreams. And if it doesn't work, they did put the work in. If it does work, all the better, right? Um, yeah. And with that, before I well, it's one part that's in here is that I will get back to the order, but um, the expectation that the outcomes turn to achieve goals of the work that we put in is very, like, that's one thing that's very important um, in terms of those, that aspect with him, what we just talked about. Because he ended up getting a chance to play 13 minutes against Alba Berlin, and he scored 10 points. And you have another kid, 16 years old, played in the game as well, became the youngest player to ever score in the BBL. So, so I think to kind of get to that is what I'm trying to get at is that my the thing that I'm supposed to do is here first define the reality where we're currently at, what where we're currently at, what the plan is, and also create the vision of what they want to achieve. And in the meantime, by that, we say that we expect to put in purposeful work that will turn to the outcome. And we do say it's process, the process over the products. And I know trust the process is a cliche now, but we do believe in the process. We want to get to the product quickly, but do understand the reality of somebody's learning ability. May it be quicker, may it be faster. So I think patience is still a key, even though it says, I did say we want to get there quickly, which in a way is an oxymoron, but in the end is, I think it's dependent on the player. And that's in terms of skills, individual skills, but that's also in terms of the team. As Jurek, for instance, you're a skills coach, right? And me, I'm a head coach for a team whose specialty is player development, but I'm still a coach of a team. So it's both those things together, basically meaning that we're trying to get the team better as quickly as possible, but some teams do it quicker than others. In one example I can give there is, for instance, this exact club I'm working in right now. Last season, we right before the season, we had to throw a kid out of the program. Another kid quit, and the third kid, which is the kid that I just mentioned, had a sickness to where he's out for the whole season. And those were three starters or three best players. So we suddenly were with a team that did not learn as quick, a team that never were in those spots. So so I definitely wanted them to learn things quickly, but I had to understand and have patience that it's not going to be that quick. And if I would have done it any way else, I would have probably went crazy. We lost the first 9 games of the season, so we first had to learn to play, get into, play with the other teams, then be in the game, and then to learn to win the games. And we ended up winning the last 4 games of that season, and it actually kind of carried over into this season as well, to where we won the first 3 games of this season before Corona hit, with the 4-game winning streak and the 3-game winning streak. Um, but but basically, my point is that obviously patience is an important thing, and the process is, in my opinion, the most important thing. But we do want to get there quickly, and the expectation out there of that outcome turns into achieve goals, which was, for one, Julius Burma, playing against Alba, playing a really good game. That's basically in chief goal because he said he wants to play in the BBL, and he played well as well too. So I think he is ready to take that step. And the other kid scored in his first game as well. So those are goals that they might have, and goals that are are there in over the course of the season. Um, Another thing in terms of motivating and inspiring is constant communication. The best example I can give right there is, and that's a big part of leadership as well in terms of how Steve Nash did it. He high-fived everybody and he stayed consistent with it. Somebody did a good thing, said, "Hey, good job." I gave him a high five. Somebody did something bad, said, "Come on, let's get it right next time. Come on, catch the ball." Gave him a high five again, which basically showed his teammates, or if a coach does it, shows the players that that he's still on his side in a way, that he's still with him and everything. Another thing that happened over here actually is we have a player named Perry Jones, um, who used to play for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and he was really struggling with confidence, and which also had to do with obviously a lot of things that happened before, injuries, probably not being in the NBA anymore, and we just had assistant coach Coach Key talk to him, or sports director um, talk to him. I talked to him, and the message with everyone was basically the same thing. Um, Relax, don't put too much pressure on yourself, just play, find something else that you can do to impact the game. And that's something in a way to also take pressure off, but also motivate and inspire. And in my opinion, um, the constant communication, is it by me, is it by somebody else, is part of leadership. It might not just be me or the head coach or whoever as leader. um, you have different guys with in different roles, who might be a leader at a different time. Maybe one day I'm not the leader, another day I am the person to basically assume that role just by something that I said. And I think that's why I'm saying, like, leadership is something that's it's very hard to define, but these little things that are tangible are basically things that we do, that I do, in terms of trying to inspire, trying to get these guys to to get to that next level. I hope that I'm not kind of that it doesn't come across as just rambling, and that that you still that the point still comes across. But yeah, because I'm kind of jumping back and forth right now.
No, man, it's all good, especially all the like the examples you're sharing as well. And um I really think, and I really like stand behind the story you're telling. But also with all the many examples you give us, it's not a like a one suits all solution.
Yeah,
Like you really have to dig deeper into each player to find out how all three check boxes should be checked. Um, it's not just like Perry's coming from the NBA. Oh man, he's awesome. We don't have to do anything with them. No, he might be your biggest, like the biggest one in this whole list because he's actually moving to a different part of the world.
yeah,
Instead of the players that are coming up from like younger levels, like an under 19. So that's already different than we have out here in Belgium, than we have out here in the Netherlands, even though we're still close to each other. And they have some little bit more time to like develop before they hit the senior level.
yeah.
So it every player should be connected on a different way, and that's where the examples are all about.
Yeah, and with him, the one thing as well is he had a hip injury, so he actually had to learn to walk again. So, so that's also a thing that it's definitely different than somebody else who's probably never been injured and therefore um, might not deal with something like that in terms of confidence as well. Might also be a thing. Um, but yeah, and that's why I think these things that I talked about, especially a SWOT analysis and talking to them, is a very important part because um, you get to learn about them as well, and that's one tool, and then you get into a conversation with them more about other things as well. But you learn about the players, you learn what is important to them, and then can is easier to actually um, I can't find the English word right now. In German is auf die eingehen, but meaning that it's easier to kind of know what they're dealing with, and yeah, that's basically it. I cannot think of the English word right now though. So yeah, then we go further to managing that vision, basically linking the team's vision to the personal team members' goals, and making sure that everything is kind of on the same track, on the same wave, so that there's not suddenly in the middle of the year, or even at the beginning, players talking about this is not what we this is this role is not what we've talked about, or this role is nothing that I see for myself, and just making sure that by talking about the goals and linking the goals to the team goals, that understanding, okay, if I do this the right way, I can achieve the goals that I want to achieve. And also what we're doing is add daily tasks for them. Some are pretty straightforward in terms of just health, the mobility, but also routines, which that part is a basically block practice part, but it gives and I feel like it gives players confidence and stability by doing these things themselves. And then we also go into the practice, and we also similarly to what Yurik I think does. We also do it in the team. We do a lot of things that's more randomized, put them into games, and I do also believe that playing is the best teacher of all. I love one-on-one, um, and I feel like that helps players make find other solutions, find are able to hit tough shots, and also if it's a 2-on-2, one-on-one, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, they can't they can't hide. But yeah, that's just me kind of going in a different direction now, but it's part of what we do, and then also give them daily shooting tasks. Sometimes it's before practice, sometimes it's during the practice, and video analysis is a important part as well. Usually the games. Sometimes we do film practice as well. Sometimes we do film individual workouts as well, just to be able to give the guys feedback, and see what they're doing right, they're doing wrong. So basically, um, giving them feedback on their way to achieve those goals. So that's the managing the vision part. And
Yeah.
then
So Enrico,
go
from
ahead.
a skills coach to another skills coach,
Yeah.
Jorik is asking, can you explain a little bit more without going completely off topic about how your block practice would look like reps you go to, and players, do players choose the moves, or the coach does? So a little bit like,
It's
uh,
just really it's just the routines. The routines is the only block part. Mainly, the only real block part. to where I give them a piece of paper of routines that I have, and I tell them this is something that that goes in the other direction of not them just coming in and doing stuff, because a lot of times young guys, they come into the gyms, they just shoot around. But I give them a sheet saying, here, these are routines that I have, routines that I that you can do, but do whatever you want. Just kind of take this as a guide in terms of what you can do before practice, in terms of during the practice. If we do anything block, it's basically just to show. Sometimes I do give some players a certain move. Just for instance, we have one kid. His name is Elijah D, and just from the way he's playing in general, I see traits that he has that are similar to a Joe Johnson. So I take a look at Joe Johnson and see what he does, and I feel like, well, let me take it a step back first with Elijah. One thing that he did when he first got here last season as an under 16 player, he loved the turnaround jumper. He loved it. And that year we told him that he could not do it. And that was the only reason to it, was that he had, in terms of his shot and in terms of a couple things, he had no stability at all. Like his midsection completely flimsy and had no stability. So we told him at that point, no. And then this season, at the beginning of the year, I was like, okay, I know he loves it, so now we're going to work at it. And that's where I, in a couple things, showed him how to do it in terms of balance and things like that. But that was also him already, it being something that he wanted to do anyways. But sometimes, but what we do as well, like for him, for instance, is with that turnaround jumper, what I also gave him was a basically up and under move, to where he leans back, goes here, lets him jump, and goes by him. So that one I gave him. So for me, it really depends on the situation, on the players. There are players that I completely leave alone in terms of giving them a move, and then some players I do give them things. For instance, also Julius Burma. If I did not give him something, this guy's so fast, he's just running past everybody. So right now, what we try to do is also give him a little shiftiness. Just kind of more stop and go things, and just give him a couple things. Sometimes at times I did say stop and go, or just stop and try to attack again. He kind of struggles with that because on the 19 level, he literally just runs by everybody. But that's something that at times he has problems with the pros. When he's just stands still, just, or has him on his hip and he just tries to go through him, and the guy's still there, and he has problems because he's not as strong right now. So I try to give him some stop and go stuff where I told him what to do, and did some footwork stuff. But yeah, and especially Julius, like, he picks up things so quickly, and that's why I said maybe even more than the EuroLeague. But it really depends on the guy, and if I feel like he's finding solutions, or he's actually not finding the solutions. When he's not finding the solutions, then I start to help them more. And there are guys that just find solutions. And to me, the greatest thing is that Elijah and another kid named Dave, those two kids, when we play one-on-one, the other guys get so frustrated and mad because they play really good defense and they just still scoring them with very difficult shots. And they're saying, how can I stop him? His, I can't stop the turnaround jumper. I can't stop him going, pivoting, and then doing a hook shot. Those are actually some of the moments that I'm most happy about, because they found things that are tough to stop. But yeah. So let me get back on on track here. Let's see. So this is then more a part in terms of what the other things are things that we do and are very, very tangible in a sense of the way we organize things. This part is more so what I do and I try to live daily is, obviously I believe in giving feedback regularly, maybe not always during the practice. Sometimes, most of the time is after practice, I talk to them. I talk to them, watching video during the practice. At times, when I take them and I talk to them, it's more so I take them to the side, tell them a quick thing, or ask them a quick thing and see how they react to it, or if they have an answer. And then also, displaying vulnerability I think is one of the most important things in terms of, having openness to be corrected and acknowledge mistakes and just tucking your ego away, which for one creates a safe space for them to feel empowered, which is the next part, to feel empowered. And also, I believe I learn from them as much as they learn from me. Because at times I see things a certain way, they say something else, and it's like, okay, he might be right about this, or maybe even and I might be wrong, or maybe even I'm not wrong, but he's actually not wrong either, and that's good for him. And that's also a part of the empowering them, which is the self-assessment, which is physio appointments. For instance, I do the doctor appointments, and then after they were at the doctors, I tell them to do everything themselves and keep me in the loop so that they take care of the stuff themselves. The routines is something that goes into that too. And it's something that's actually very important to me, because I know, especially with the physio appointments, I know that when I was a player or stopped playing, right before I stopped playing, I did not know how to or did not do these things by myself, and kind of needed somebody else to do these things for me. So for me, is them being able to basically govern themselves. And also, I do not talk to the parents at all, would be an exaggeration. If they have a question, they can talk to me, obviously, but overall, I always talk through them so that they feel like I'm taking them serious, and it's about them and not me talking about them with their parents. Even worse, doing that in front of them. Um, so that is a very important part, in my opinion. And this to basically leave you with this quote is: before you're a leader, success is about growing yourself. When you become a leader, success is all about growing others. And that's basically what I'm doing, what I'm trying to do, and give these guys a platform to grow, while taking a step back at times, and sometimes obviously taking a step forward to make sure that they are on the right track.